Everybody. As Mike said, my name is Spoonemore, and my wife and I are from Seed to Spoon app. So today I'm going to tell you the story of this app and kind of share some of the lessons of what we learned along the way. So let me start by talking about what our app is and what it does. So our app calculates planting dates for you based on your nearest weather station for over 100 different foods. All growing information you need about how to grow those foods. So it has, everything you can imagine. It has all the pests that could attack that plant, as well as how to treat those pests organically without using pesticides or anything like that. It has beneficial insects that you can attract into your garden. That companion plant recipes, blog posts, and our whole building some information for this. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about today. And one of the big features that we have in our app is this growing for health feature. It lets you filter the plants list based on things that you may want to grow. So the reason that we started growing food was to help with anxiety and depression. I have fought with it my entire life. And in 2008, I was 340 pounds. I had massive issues with anxiety, depression, just a lot of health issues. My dad died young, and I knew that I was going to be following him on the similar if I didn't change something. I got really, I started running a lot and marathons and stuff, but anxiety and the depression was still there. I mean, marathon, but I missing, and it wasn't until I was kind of carried here that things started to change for me. She's a nurse. She helped me identify that anxiety was the root. Before that, I had no idea what was going on. I that everyone have this kind of wave of energy that would come over, these like anxious feelings. I didn't know anything about it. And she book called The Depression Cure that talked about how we can manage anxiety and depression through very simple things like drinking a lot of water, the right foods, stuff with a lot of magnesium and calcium and things like that, getting exercise every day and getting proper sleep, and waking up with the sun and going to bed with the sun and the impact of that, and mindfulness and being in the moment instead of worrying about things that were in the past or things that could happen in the future, and activity. And this book really resonated with me, and these concepts were simple, but they were explained in a way that I'd never really heard before. And we dedicated our life to the principles of this book, and it led us to starting it. And this is basically what happened. So I am on the spectrum. I get obsessed about things, and I get obsessed about gardening. So I converted our entire backyard. I took master gardener classes. I had stacks and stacks of gardening books that I binged. I watched YouTube like nonstop on gardening videos. Life was all about gardening, and that's where we. So the thing about gardening is that it's hard to get, because there's a lot of information out there. It's very overwhelming. Like a lot of the books I read were written by someone maybe in Michigan, and I live in Oklahoma, and the growing conditions are radically different. And there were lots of things to memorize and calculate. And there were bugs everywhere, and some of the bugs were good and some were bad, and trying to figure out which ones were which. And there was just a lot of stuff going on, and there was no to help with that. And around the time of the election in 2016, and that was when social media seemed to really get negative a lot. Maybe it's always been that way, but it really got negative. And my wife and I decided the day of the election that we wanted to create a presence on social media that was something to be in the city. Sorry, I'm not talking to you, Siri. Let me put you over here. Siri thought I was talking. So we wanted to create a place on the internet to be an antithesis of all that. So a place to share gardening information and have positivity and just uplifting things. So we started our whole From Seed to Spoon as that, basically. A YouTube channel where I recorded videos in my backyard, and felt so awkward walking around with a camera, just like doing this. But people seemed to get a lot of followers, and people started to ask a lot of questions like, when do I plant in Florida? When do I plant in North Carolina, Texas, like every state? And now the problem is, well, I got to calculate for each one of these people, and it's just and that was when of building an app was kind of born. So the picture you see here is was my team at the time, and I kind of want to pause to explain a bit about the technical background of my life now, kind of because I haven't touched it on that at all. And I started my career in tech support at a software company here in Oklahoma called Alamode. And I went from there into QA, and from there into product management. So in product management, I spent time designing mobile apps. So my life was about mobile apps, and I had already had user story frames and everything for this mobile app for gardening, and I had been trying to talk my developer friends and help build it. You know how it is. I mean, you want to help your friends build something, but you don't have time, and so like I was having a hard time getting people to commit to it. And these guys and Luke, striped shirt here, he's been like a mentor to me throughout my career, and I was telling him about this problem of not being able to find a developer, and he said, Dell, you can do this. And at the time I was in QA at SCA, where this picture was, and I was building automated tests, and he said, it's not much harder than what you're doing with automated tests, and help you get started. And Justin, the guy on the end, the red jacket, volunteered that when we got back to the office, he was going to help me get set up with a simple app and show me how simple it is to build apps now. Because my idea of building apps was like in the early days of apps. And I saw the code that they're writing for that, and I was like, that is a lot to learn right now. I've got 4 kids. Like, I can't learn all that right now. And they convinced me to give it a shot. And this lunch changed my life, because when we got back from lunch, they sat down at my desk. They set me up with Ionic. They showed CSS. I already knew pretty well from hacking MySpace and whatever back in the day. I mean, building websites, just the kind of stuff that I did as a teenager, just for fun. And the only thing I really had to if else and the for loops and all that kind of stuff. So really it was just learning the framework, because that was what they explained to me was, JavaScript's all about framework now, and Angular is the framework that they chose, and the Ionic also used Angular, and that's what they also used up there at work. And maybe if I learned this, I could get a job as a developer. And so when I took a complete. Before that, I was like in a semi-pro Madden league on the Xbox, where I had 5 and I developed like a binder that I had categorized based on like the coverage of what I read. So if it was like a cover 3 defense, I'd like, okay, and I had like 20 different plays. I never called the same one once. Like I said, I'm very obsessed. And that energy, not to like bash video games, because I think there's a time and place for it, but it was not a good use of my energy, and especially like that time basically just pivoted 100% into learning how to code and working on this app that, after like an hour of sitting at my desk. So Pluralsight became all that I watched, specifically Deborah Carrata, shout out. Her videos are amazing. We're getting started video 8 times probably. And what I would do is I would start at the beginning. I'd make it through to like module 3 or 4 before I felt like I had, and I was totally lost. So I would stop, feel like crying for a day, step away, like go out the garden, come back with like fresh eyes, start again. By the time I got to that like 3 or 4 module that I was stuck at, now things made sense, because I understood foundationally something better, from the beginning ones. And I was able to go farther into like 5 and 6. And then I kept cycling through until I made it all the way through. And then I kept going through until I feel like I really got it. So that's basically what I did for 3 months. And in front of the computer, and I was in the gardening, I was listening to the Syntax podcast. Shout out to Wes Boss and Scott Talinsky. It's a great podcast to listen to when I'm like out here doing whatever type of stuff in the garden, and a lot of YouTube videos. So I just started binging people like Simon Grimm and Josh Maroney and Paul Halliday, Angular Fire, just as many videos as I could. Just that's all I do. You can ask my wife; she gets tired of programming, and now fishing is when I get on a roll. It's all I want to watch. So anyway, that was basically my life for the next 3 months. And this was our first prototype after about 3 months. And it was basically just a list of plants. So everything was, vegetables, was the name of the file, and everything was just kind of. It looked very much like a web page, you know, like it didn't quite look like a mobile app at it. And when like this whole From Seed to Spoon project became just me and my family became involved. So my wife Carrie started taking over all the data. She learned how JSON is structured. She learned how to use data. Now she handles all the data that goes into the app, from plants to pests to everything that goes into there. She handles. My kids are amazing little testers. I pay them for each bug that they find, both literal bug in the garden and software bug in the app. They get paid for both, and they are testers. So, you know, like it became like this family thing, and we started, like we launched this. It became this thing, and we started, you know, going to local events. Engagements at like home and garden shows, and I took my RV to the home and garden the entire weekend there, just parked there and spent every hour that it was open with my iPad chasing people like, hey, check out this app. And as they used the app, I would watch and read body language, and I could see when stuff didn't make sense. And we used that knowledge to completely change the way things looked in it. And I'll show that here in a minute, but I'll talk a little bit more about this slide. We also focused on reviews because we had a pretty large YouTube following at the time already, and we were to use that to get some reviews. But also, we were smart about how we asked for reviews. So instead of asking for a review on the first open, we waited for third or fifth open to ask, hey, would you like to review this? And then we also made it pretty conversational. So it was like, hey, these really help us out and help us get noticed. You know, can you please write a word or two? That's all we need. I appreciate it. And that really helped get reviews. And before we knew it, you could search for gardening in the App Store, and we were in the top 5. And that was releasing. And we used that knowledge to completely revamp the way the app looked. This was kind of the next iteration of the app. And so you can see like a lot more colors added, a lot more cards, a lot more mobile looking things. A shout out to the Ionic team for this, because it made it a lot easier using a lot of their components they have pre-built. Another big piece that we added this time was the ability to automatically calculate planting dates based on the nearest weather station. Until that time, we only had that string that you see, like that 4 to 6 weeks before last frost. That's all we had. And Justin wasn't on the project yet, and I'll get to that here in a second. But I was talking through this problem with him, and we found this API that had the data that we needed, but it only at the time, which is frustrating. And it was public data, and he is a wizard. And within like one night, he had reverse engineered this API, found the public data source, and pulled it into the app, and now we were able to calculate directly in the app, 100% reliable with no API call. And it was like wizardry to me. That was the moment I realized, like, I've got to find a way to get this guy on the project. And that was when From Seed to Spoon started becoming more than just. And Justin joined the project here. So this is Justin in this picture, and Patrick has also joined the project. He joined later on. But you know, I want to talk. I think this is an important part of building a team, because I think the most important part about building a team is knowing your weaknesses and building around them. So I'm weak. And early in my career, I didn't know that, because your ego can get in the way and you're oblivious to what you're not good at. But getting better is hyper aware of what you're not good at. It's not to a fault, though. I mean, that can have its challenges too. But the point is, know what you don't like to do and what's a struggle for you, and then find to do those things and start there. Justin is very intricate back-end solutions that are well thought out and bomb-proof. And I like thinking about like the user's point of view and thinking about cool features. That's like where I like to spend my time. So between the two of us, we make a really good team. But you know, to find people and to get them to join your project, I think what you got to do is you got to tell them your goals, like your big goals. And you can't be shy about it, because early on I told them, hey, if this app becomes a to do with it, like here's the plan, here's how this could become something. And like, and I'll talk more about like that later on, but I think that's an important thing to tell about. You got to tell people your goals, and you got to own it, and you've got to live it in order for people to join what you're doing, or they're not going to be convinced that it's something they should spend their time on. So soon after they joined, we had an amazing opportunity to join the Oklahoma City Thunder Launchpad, which is a tech accelerator based here in Oklahoma City, where Google and Oklahoma City Thunder actually partnered to help tech entrepreneurs in Oklahoma City reach a wider audience and to get investment opportunities and all sorts of things. So we went through that accelerator and came out of it with a very clear idea of how we can start to monetize this app, because we released this app originally with no plans of monetization. And I still struggle sometimes because I don't want this app to become about money too much, because I want to be able to enjoy working on it. My job pays the bills, and I like that balance of life right now because my kids are young. And I'll get to that more later too. I keep saying I'll get to more later, but I promise I will. A lot about what we need to do. What we came out of that was a pretty good understanding. So we already have affiliate links that we had from the beginning, where we linked our favorite gardening products through our Amazon affiliate link, and we got like 8 to 11% of the sale, depending on the category and all sorts of other things that go into it. So we already had that. And what we did was we started reaching out to the products that we sold the most of and showed them the data of, hey, we've sold this many things on Amazon. We would like to work directly with through us. So that's what we did. Is we now have our own store. That they're our favorite gardening products. We were already using them. We were already promoting them. So selling those, and we still do that. And we started working on a paid version of the app. So the app right now is free, but you can get it. You can see all the are free right now as well, in open free data. And the paid features are all focused around letting you log in your, so it lets you go through and like log, and you can log events. We want to eventually make it where it pulls in rainfall events automatically. We're doing like, that's what we want to get to, is where it's doing really small the water based on how much it's rained where you are and stuff like that. But we also have full-time jobs right now, so we're trying to find that balance of what we can do while working full-time and husband and all that kind of stuff. So but this is our first attempt at the paid features, and we're really excited to have this out right now. Release it around the time that around pretty much when COVID, we decided at that time just to make it free, because a lot of people were taking up gardening to really help into gardening and to really have success with gardening. So we're working on finishing up this and releasing as a paid feature, ability to add some plants and stuff like that, because we get plant requests coming in and we can't keep up with all of them. So we need to do some things like that before we make it paid. But that's the path that we're on. We're really excited about Garden Plus. We've had a lot of good feedback. Some parting advice. Number one, my favorite line from an Avett Brothers song is "Decide what to be and go be." Because most of my life I was very insecure, and if I had an idea that I thought would be something cool, I didn't do it because I worried about what people would think. And it wasn't until I just things started to change and I started to have success. And it's even something like starting a YouTube channel of making gardening videos. I would have never done that. I would have been way too embarrassed. But you just have to own who you are. You have to decide what you want to be in this world and go be it. And that's that's my favorite lyric, and I think that's an important one. Number two, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You can get burned out in a hurry, and I've burned myself out a few times in this project. And when I start to feel that way, I just kind of walk it, and I come back to it when I feel ready. And you have to be okay with that. You can't work every day on a side project nonstop. In my experience, be a good father and all the things you got to be. It's just not something I've been able to pull off. So a lot of times we take summers off. I'll take a month or two off in the summer and we'll be with my kids. You got to be okay with that. It's kind of like a rest stop during a marathon. You got to be okay with stopping for a bit. And I'm not in this to make money. I'll talk about what my goals are here when we end. But another important part is to automate and to delegate, because blog posts and those things are the more you can automate, sustain momentum. We're set up where our MailChimp automatically pulls in blog posts, builds a weekly newsletter that goes out. Like, I'm not gonna have time to craft a weekly newsletter, so that does it for me. You gotta get that kind of thing in. And most importantly, you got to remember why you're doing it, or you definitely will burn out. Because I didn't start this project to make money. I started it. I wanted to help people. My lives changed because gardening and the lifestyle associated with this completely changed my life. I now have the tools that I need to help manage anxiety and depression. I have food that my family is able to eat. My kids are eating stuff out of the garden from the time they were babies, so that's just built into them. That's, I think, is going to be an important thing for them in their life to keep them healthy. So, I mean, there's so many benefits that I could talk for another 30 minutes about just that. Sorry, one more thing. I want to say this. As I feel like we have the ability to reach the entire world with a click of the button. No matter who you are. I'm just a random dude in Oklahoma. Didn't come from money. Didn't come from much of anything. I'm just a random dude, and my family and my friends, we were able to put out an app that literally changed people's lives. We get so many emails from people talking about how this app has made it where they're able to grow food, and we have an opportunity to help people. And I like this quote, code the change you want to see in the world. It's really easy to sit back on Twitter and complain about, but there's lots of organizations out there that are for what you're for, or that want to help in the things that you want to help in. So join them or start your own thing, but just do something. The change you want to see in the world. And lastly, I want to the Ionic team, because Ionic literally changed my life. I thought development was going to be way too hard for me to do, but now I have a full-time job as a software developer. We're able to achieve one of our dreams of moving out to a farm. So we now live on 5 acres with a bunch of sheep. You can see a pig back behind me over there laying in the mud, and some baby goats. Come on in here, Brooklyn. We've got my kids here. Kids. Human and goat kids. You helped make this happen. Thank you to Deborah Carrado, Josh Maroney, Simon, Jorge, Paul, everyone else out there. And thank you just listen to this, and thank you for the opportunity to share my story. So I appreciate the opportunity. If you'd like to follow us or download our app, you can find me at Dale Spoonemore on Instagram or Twitter, or all the social networks. And From Seed to Spoon is at From Seed to Spoon. I think number 2, because I couldn't get TO. But just search for From Seed to Spoon, you'll find it. So there's links on our website. So you can find our app on both iOS and Android. I've written blog posts about my story, a little bit about anxiety and depression. Things like that. We've talked about that pretty openly too on some YouTube videos. So if you're interested in learning more about that, check out that. And lastly, we have some series that we've launched recently that are geared towards people that are learning how to code. Showing some things. We're building a very simple garden calculator app and kind of show the code of that. So thank you for the time today, Mike. I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate everything y'all. Great conference today. I've really enjoyed it and look forward to everyone else.